All right, welcome to episode 7 of What's in the Box. Mark, we've made it to episode 7. How are you today?
Great. I'm great. Thank you.
For those of you joining us for the first time, my name is Tolga Alpagat. I'm VP of Marketing here at Tatsoft, and with me every week is our founder and CTO, Mark Taccolini. And we kind of peel back the layers within the FrameworX platform and give you a little bit of a deeper dive where Mark kind of answers some questions. Now, last week, Mark, we did our Webcast where we kind of announced some of the new things coming out in 9.1, and then we followed up with you and Walker for episode 6. You want to just kind of give us a quick highlight of that, because that was a very popular episode.
Oh, yeah. Well, we have the webcast published about the new features on 9.1. There are many. But with Walker, we did a little more deep on the concept of the unified namespace and our native support, not only for MQTT, but to any external tag provider like store and packages. And now we have the ability to consume that data without being able to create tags in Tatsoft Factory Studio. It means when doing your display or codes, you can dynamically browse or consume addresses from your MQTT broker or from your Canary Lab store or any other tag provider, and use that application, and that connection is dynamic. So we don't need to have a previous knowledge on what we are going to find one motor or 5 or one solar panel or 10. You can make your applications with self-awareness to be able to react dynamically to that data. And very important, not having to create a tag in your motor system doing any data duplication. It's not that you create a local tag and do the connection to read and write, like we should do with PLCs. Now we can directly from our application use the data that other packages and other platforms like MQTT Broker make available. That, I believe, was one topic that really caught the attention.
Yeah, no, I will say that it is a game changer, and based on Walker's reaction and making sure I took notes, the bypass the tag creation process. For those of you that did miss the webcast, you can always check it out on our website. If you go to tatsoft.com under support, you'll see webinars. And something new as of today is we're broadcasting in 1080p. So our resolution should be a lot clearer for those of you following us on LinkedIn Live as well as YouTube. And now, without wasting any more time, I just want to hop right into today's episode, which is talking about the power of our symbols. And this is going to be tying into also a little bit of what we showed at the webcast, which also talks about some of our SmartFlow connectors. So, Mark, without further ado.
Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen to do so. And here we are. And I'm going here to our drawing tools. And I will really make an effort not to try to do training. That was not supposed to be training. So I try to keep at a high level. But one thing I'd like to start through there, in some packs, what they call symbol, it's just a custom drawing that you have on the system. And of course, in our case, it's much more than that. But let's start with the symbol. So you can create your own images, like I used to love my Pac-Mans. And you can also import any kind of image file. And when you import those image files, you can apply those image files, either the image file directly or overlay the image file combined with a shape. And the kind of images we can apply, there are all kind of extensions. And XML as well. Pretty much if you have any kind of vector graphics or image graphics, you can bring that to the system, okay? But going beyond that, the symbols, they are not only images, they can embed dynamic properties. So because this symbol is a Pac-Man, probably that symbol, I want to be able to move that. So I'm going to say that this symbol will have a property that you define at what speeds that object's moving. And I will put some G4 values to move, and I do a quick test on that UI. And so here I have my symbol with the dynamic behavior. And to be clear, our symbols are way more smart than that. I'm starting very simple, so understand the concepts. So now I'm adding this symbol to our library. So I'm creating a symbol that I'm calling Pacman1. Okay. So now this symbol is part of our symbol library. And we supply the application, of course, with hundreds, if not thousands, because they are growing all times, with all kinds of predefined symbols. So we do have lots of symbols following the high performance HMI specification. We do have lots of other symbols that are more graphical. And all those symbols, as much as possible, they are not a drawing. They embedded, as I was using in my demonstration, some dynamic behavior. So when applying those symbols to your application, you don't need to go to that low-level definition of the dynamic behavior. You can just pick up the symbol and map directly to a data source in your application. And this data source can be the tags defined inside the application, or they can be that new feature that you browse dynamically, a MQTT broker or a storage package. But essentially, what you can do, you can assign the symbol to the value. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that symbol go back to the library, and you can organize that library at will. Okay. Let's start doing some more advanced configurations with that. Let's say now I have a tag template like a turbine, or let's make a new one so you can see how we do from scratch. I'm creating a new data type or a new template called PIG. And on PIG, I'm going to say that I have a set points that defined should be a floating point value and a process value that would be also a floating point value, and some sort of or off or out, whatever, that would be a digital value. So that's my model for a very basic, simple PIG. And on my database, I'm going to create here a tag name. I'll call PIG just so I don't have to be too creative today. Mm-hmm. And let's say you want to not use our library because we have some PIG faceplates, but you create your own PIG faceplates. So here I'm going to put this bar graph mapping to the property pig.setPoints. I will duplicate that object, but I will remap to pig.pv. Pig.pv, here it is, the property. And I will pick up something from the library, could pick up a push button or something like that. In that case, I'll be more simple, just pick up a checkbox to put the auto manual to that object. And I will save that as a new symbol. If I want that symbol to be my default visualization for PIG tags, I just connect that with the templates. So this symbol now can be used with any tag, but it is also by default the visualization tool for PIG variables. So when I have my PIG tags on my application, so here I'm creating some PAG variables on my application, and I bring those tags to the display, the system will automatically create that objects with the proper mapping, so we don't have to go one by one on that definition. And this process that I'm doing the copy paste from the database, it also works if you do copy paste from Excel, or if you have a CSV file with the display you want to put and which symbols and which location. So we can import CSV files, or we can copy paste from another application and create those displays based on that external information. Okay. By the way, you can do that through codes. We have a library that you can do your VB.NET or C# programming, that you can create an application that you create your displays, your objects dynamic based on that. Okay. And one feature that's important, that's connected with symbols, but also with our templates, is that our templates, they can have many levels. So here I'm creating a template for turbine. The templates can also include as one element, for instance, a PID loop. So essentially, you can very easily create advanced data models, and you can create visual representations of those data models. So instead of doing the old style HMI design, that you do the symbol and you go to symbol and you do the mapping, you don't need that anymore, because we can assign what is the default visualization for that the data type.
Okay.
So far, so good.
Yeah, I'm following along here.
Exactly.
And Mark, you know, I'm sorry, I just want to tell you, one of the things that we got for feedback for our episodes is they like technical. So if you need to, you know, go into go into the deep, please, by all means. Yeah.
So keep going. Here in this case, I'm picking up in 3 integer tags. Okay. And by default, the visualization of an integer tag, if I zoom in that, it's just something like that, a text IO box. But if I want to customize how I'm going to show my data, I can create a new symbol, okay? And the same way I do with data templates, okay? I can create this symbol and save to say that will be the default visualization for all my floating point values, okay?
Okay.
But I'm not going to do that because let's say I have a more complex application that I want to show the sensor data using one kind of user interface, and I want to show let's call that some other name, and I want to show the other type of data. So let me put here another tag. I will pick up here any variable from the application. Okay. And I'm also now going a little deep and tag on the symbols. We have that concept of hashtag. So here I'm creating a hashtag called tag that will be replaced when you run this application for which tag you want to be in that application. Here I'm going to create a hashtag called minimum. That's the minimum value you want to accept to that value, and here maximum. And of course, those numbers, they don't need to be numbers. They can be properties of the tag. They can be dynamically defined, okay? Okay. So in this case, I'll keep fixed just to make the application a little more simple. And this symbol, I'm going to create another new symbol that I will call output or whatever name. When you are using those symbols, you have two ways to do that. One is to just duplicate the symbol or pick up the symbol from the symbol library. Once you're saved, is on the symbol library available to everyone to use. And you can double click to the symbol and do the mapping. And when doing that mapping, it can be only one value, or can be a data structure, or can be a very complex data type, like a turbine that have many page loops, and do the mapping of the top of the hierarchy. Let me rephrase that sentence, that because a more complex one. When you map the symbol, depends on how you define the symbol, you can expose to do the configuration of only one value, or you can do the configuration that what you put here is in fact a node in your hierarchy. So we'll pick up automatically all the attributes under that initial address, okay?
Okay.
But whatever map in one or another way, that's one way to do that screen. Another way, as I did explain, is through the base copy and paste procedure. But we also have one concept that's very nice, especially for large size projects, that the concept of categories. That you can create some custom metadata and apply that custom metadata to your application. So here I'm defining that I have 3 types of data in my system. And when I go to my tag database, I can say, okay, those 2 tags, I can do my edit combine rows. Oh, so I forgot to do one thing. I need to make visible the column category. Here it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So essentially, what you can do now, you can go and say, okay, this is a variable of this category. Those 2, they are connected with those other categories. And you even can have one variable connect with more than one, okay? But pretty much here, you can very easily assign some tag metadata to your real-time database. So you can assign one or more labels for that. That allows you to create dynamic displays that will put the symbols automatically. We will show that in the dashboard presentation, probably 2 weeks from now, that we can create a basic template. And instead of doing the copy and paste manually, the dashboard will populate automatically to all types that fits that filter criteria. Or in this case, I'm not on dashboards yet, you can define to your integer data what should be the visualization for that type of symbol. So you can go to the symbols you are using in this application, and you can define to say, okay, when I'm looking of data of type outputs, I want to use this symbol by default. When I'm looking of this other type of data, I want to use this symbol. This other type of data, I want to use this symbol. So what we're doing now that you have some metadata information, you can define what are the default visualization to that type of data. And that does not be connected with the template anymore. Now can be any generic type of classification, not connected with the type anymore. So when you paste that information out, you'll see it create automatically the type of object that was connected with the metadata I had connected with that tag.
Wow.
So you can have the same type of object, what is an integer, what's a turbine, being able to create different type of UI visualizations without you having to do any configuration for that. You see
nice.
that when I did the copy paste, or you can do here also for insert tag, but when you insert this tag in the display, we know the visualization for this type of downtime tag should be this kind of user interface. So far, so good, Stoger?
Yeah, I'm actually following along. I'm pretty impressed.
Okay, great. It's a very old trick to make sure your marketing guy follows the technical presentation.
Well, the one thing that I have in what I do is all of the products that I have in my, marketing stack is just mapping. And there's a lot of attributes that I have to connect. So a lot of this
Exactly.
makes sense.
In this case, you don't have to mapping because you are doing an asset-centric or tag-centric configuration. So essentially, we still can open the object and do the mapping. Okay, we
That's
still
nice.
can pick up an object that someone created, go to edit symbol, modify the dynamic properties, add dynamic custom behavior to that symbol, and then save back to the symbol library. And when you do that, all screens your application use that symbol will automatically be updated for the new layouts. Okay. So you don't need to do any force brute maintenance. In fact, if you don't want that, you need to disable that property because that's the default. So linked with the symbol library means that if you modify the symbol in the centralized library, your display will follow automatically. Or you can cut that default connection if you want to. Okay. So you can play with the contents, the properties of the symbol, or even the size of the symbol. And you can decide if you keep the software default, that is to propagate that automatically to all screens, or in some case, you want to remove and make that symbol really specific to that screen, no more connected with the symbol library.
How common is that, Mark, the second part, to have something that's very specific that you don't want it to propagate?
It's quite common when you do some level of customization in the symbol.
Got it.
So when you create your own view of the symbol, or is some temporary symbol that you created with some custom that you don't to be part of your official library, you do that a lot. But as much as possible, the ideal, if you're a system integrator or an end user, or if you work in some custom vertical, one thing that we have that's really very nice is the ability that you have full ability to do any type of customization in the symbols. So there are some other systems that they also have very nice libraries, but what they cannot do is to pick up any components, and do this magic edits. And when you go edit, you start to play as you want with that thing, and not only play with the drawing, you can add dynamic behavior to that object. And that's one thing, based on my experience, quite unique that you have. So the components you supply, they are all open technology. So I'm saving that back the symbol, and probably I should create a new name for that. I don't want to break too much my demos, but anyway, now I have this new symbol that was created on top of another one with that additional color change property here. Okay.
Wow.
So one thing that are very unique, our symbol library is very extensive, very extensive. But to be fair, you have other libraries that are very extensive also. What you have that I would say is quite unique is the ability to create completely new symbols from scratch very easily, or modify any existing component very easily and put back on the library. And that's not a drawing. That symbol embedded some built-in dynamic behavior.
Yeah.
And this dynamic behavior, we have three ways to do the configuration. One way is to come here and select the mapping. Another way is just doing copy and paste from an external data source or programmatically. Another way is to get in from the tag database, doing a copy paste or inserting a tag on the system that will create the UI as expected for that data type. And on the presentation of dashboards and assets, we can now also do that automatically based on the external tag provider. So I will not go on that today because it would be too much for one session, but the same kind of auto mapping that we are doing with our own locally defined tags, we can do dynamically when you are getting data from an MQTT broker or from a historian or from an asset model, and that will be covered in the dashboard session.
Okay.
The symbol you create, they are here, okay? And those symbols can be used to any project within that server, okay? And going really very deep on the technical, because you say that people like, we have, when we install our product, called symbol library.tproj in our installation folder. Symbol like.tproj is our default symbol library. And it's a project file, essentially. So if you are working Factory Studio in this server computer, and you have lots of symbols that you like, you have two options. One option is to pick up those symbols and use the share button that can publish those symbols to another server or to our cloud environments if you want to make those symbols as a promotion for a company available to our communities. That's one way to share those symbols across projects or across companies. Or another way is to move the physical file symbol library.tproj. That's where we store the custom symbols we are creating in addition to the default ones. So to be clear, in this step, we're not showing all the symbols. We are just showing the additional custom symbols we created or use within this application. Okay. The full symbol library is here. That's why we have this checkbox also show only project symbols, that you filter the symbols only to what you are using in that specific application. So you'll not be overwhelmed. Try to find the symbols you need always. So here I'm filtering for the ones based on the templates and the screens I'm using for that specific project configuration. Okay. And when you are customizing the symbol, to be clear, you don't need to go any special place to create our symbols. In any screen you are, when you have a symbol selected, you can just ask to add that symbol. Or some people has technical question that what's unmake symbol? Unmake is when I want to pick up that object, remove that object from the library, and break that object to the internal components. So as you see now, this is no longer a symbol. I did pick up one thing that was a symbol and break down to the lower level elements that symbol was one time. Okay.
So it essentially disassembles the symbol for you, right? Into the individual piece. Got it.
Of course, the symbol is shown in the library. Okay. If I want the symbol, I can pick up from the library or I can undo those steps. Okay. But of course, I still have the symbol in the library. But sometimes useful when you want to do your custom drawing to, as you say, disassemble a components to say, okay, what are the basic elements that company was created?
Got it.
Because everything here is vector graphics. Everything that you have on the end of the day, you can start into ungroup, and you reach some basic vector graphics. Here's a vector graphic, advanced shading, this and that. So we do have a very, very powerful drawing tool. And what's amazing about this drawing tool, it applies also to your web pages. That's a question I typically have.
Yeah.
When we create symbols, displays, we need to select if that display will be for .NET Smart Clients or HTML5 pages. So the same server, you can have two types of clients accessing two sets of displays. You can have some displays for .NET Smart Clients, or you can have displays for HTML5 clients. So the displays, there are two sets. But the symbols on the display, no, they can be the same. So if you want to have one component or even something bigger that's available in both platforms, you can pick up this nice, useful information I put here. Let's say I'll call that this my symbol 2. So symbol 2 is all that information and some other symbols inside. And when I go to a page that was created to be an HTML5 page, the HTML5 pages, they can support JavaScript for the customization. But whatever this page in your application is HTML5, I still can browse and insert the symbols, including the custom symbols you created. So you want to share some drawing, some data, some live data, some charts in between HTML5 page and .NET pages, just put that in a symbol, and that symbol can be deployed to both types of user interfaces.
Very nice. Okay.
As well for iPads and iOS native apps also that we also support. Okay.
Okay.
So here, as I'm showing this running example, in this example, we did a very simple application in HTML5. In fact, here I'm running the .NET clients. And here I'm running the exactly same application in HTML5.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why I got confused. The only way to know, you need to pay attention to the URL. Here, we don't have any URL. That's our thin clients that runs without installation. You don't need to install anything in your computer, but your computer needs to be a Windows machine. If your computer is not a Windows machine, we have this other type of clients that runs inside a browser, okay? In this case, I'm running Microsoft Edge as the browser. But the functionality on symbol is pretty much the same. And also the ability to do symbols automatically mapping to templates dynamically. So in this application, when I open this button and putting out this pop-up, mapping to the line number 1. So here I can play with such the speeds of line number 1. If I open this other object now, I'm opening not only a symbol, but I'm opening a full window mapping to another data model. But the symbol and the display was created only one time in the application. That's the key point here.
Yeah.
So we don't need to create two sets of displays or two sets of symbols. And you see here the values, they are different. The this is rotating 651 RPM, this rotating, they are with different speeds, okay? But the same symbols, the same screens using templates, okay?
That's a time saver.
And if you need examples on how to do that, it's in our forum. We do have, and on the end of presentation, Togar will make sure you know the links and how to subscribe. We have the online documentation that we are going to show you in a bit. Togar will do that, so show on the website where is the online documentation. But we have another area that are the project examples on the forum, where we make those examples available. So the key point with symbols, not only the symbol, but a full dialog or full screen, we can very easily remapping to another assets. And you can do that also when running the application. We don't need to do that at the engineering level. You see here the speed of that one is much faster. You can do that dynamically, also based on asset model or based on MKG broker. And we're going to explore more that auto generation of displays in the dashboard session.
Okay.
I think we are good. If I keep going more, I think we start to go in too much advanced specific. It will be almost like a training. Oh,
Yeah.
there is one thing I've completely forgot. Let's talk about now connectors. So one feature that we are putting on the new release is when you need to do flow diagrams like this one here, that I'm doing the representation of a network architecture, and can be electrical power, can be water. There are many areas you can apply that concept. But essentially in this case, the symbols are not just a drawing. They have a physical connection between them that have a meaning, okay? When you do that, we have the ability now to make the connectors follow the symbol, as well the labels. And beyond that, when you run the application, these segments here will automatically follow a predefined color based on the state, if I have or not data connection between those two elements. We call that the new flow symbols. So when I'm creating a new symbol now from scratch, okay, what we can do in that symbol is to say, oh, this symbol, let me change the color to make it more easily visible. I'll say this symbol here, whatever is the meaning in electrical, water, or networking fields, we'll have those 2 points of entry that will allow connections. So I'm creating those 2 nodes here to say this symbol will be able to accept connections. So I'm making a new symbol, and I'm saying this new symbol is something that will allow to receive connections. And now when I do that, we have the connector elements that also new in the draw interface that allows you connect that symbol with other symbols that also allow to be in the engine receiving of a connection. Okay.
Wow.
And we also have the ability to run automatically the mapping when you add the symbol to the screen. We also have the ability to have predefined templates that will be the data representation for that symbol. For instance, here we have the data type of a switch. So we have the defined to have a predefined configuration application that when I put that symbol in the display, by default, if it's a switch, he may have all those built-in properties. And also the color schema that to be using based on the runtime properties that is already predefined here, that you can say, okay, this symbol is using that kind of coloring to the many states the object can be, okay? So when you define the symbol and the connector, you have the concept of predefined states, and you can very easily assign the states of the symbols also as part of the symbol templates. So what you have on the end of the day is when you add a switch here, you have a set of predefined exposed properties for a switch. It's not only the drawing. And you have a predefined color schema for that switch. And the connections between the elements, not only they will move automatically, but they will have the proper color being calculated dynamically based on which elements am connected. So if the switch go red, the connected segment will go red also because I'm losing that path in the communication. Right now, we'll be putting available to the users very soon the library for networking. And we are starting to work with OEM partners to have specific advanced libraries and calculation behind the scenes for power, water, and some other verticals where data flow or energy flow makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
But there are some benefits that you can have right away from that. One of them is the ability to have the labels, for instance, that they move together with the symbols. So it's quite hands that it's not only about the data flow, it's also the ability to have that. Okay.
Yeah, that speeds up workflow significantly.
Yes, and also a feature that's not new, but since I'm talking about display, many users never notice, believe it or not, that you have this little icon that open as a tree view your screen.
No.
And you can select elements through here. You can copy and paste dynamic properties. So you can access the elements visually through here or through the tree view as well. Okay.
Very cool.
It's a little hidden feature that's here for almost 1 year. That's not even new on 90.1, but I know some users didn't know that we discreetly add that feature here.
Well, it just gives you an incentive to tune in weekly because you drop these kind of little gems.
Yeah, some features we put within the same release, like the street navigation. It wasn't a major release. You just added. By the way, we are all times adding lots of feature in between the major releases. Okay, like this flow connectors, we'll be adding available to the user a couple weeks time. It wasn't originally 9.1, but we decided to include to the 9.1 users as well. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's a good overview. And I know probably lots of questions will be about in templating, how I create generic displays. We'll cover a little bit on the next presentation. What hopefully, in a quick summary, you're able to get the idea that we have that concept of templates. Our templates can have child templates. You can very easily map data types with custom visualization objects, and you don't need to do that configuration 2 times. We can only insert the assets through a browsing tool, or you can also dynamically select that asset. If you have an external asset model, you can do that on the fly as well. Those are the key concepts, and the symbols are fully customizable. You can use the low-level drawing tools or modify any components. So all the components we send with the application, you can customize at will. And I heard about some integrators telling me that's not really the case in most of the systems.
Yeah.
That's it, Stoger. I think we are good on that. So let me stop sharing my screen so you can see if there are some questions or if you do some wrap up.
Yeah, so I think we're probably at the point of wrapping up, but for those that are kind of just tuning into the audio side and maybe catching this towards the end, you kind of summarized already really what makes or what you can do with our symbols, but can you elaborate a little more just on how it's different than maybe how some other platforms utilize their symbols? I know you talked about it a little bit, but if you could just expound, because maybe not everyone's
let's do a summary on that because it's very important. First of all, we can very easily, some of things I'm saying, some platforms support, some they don't. Sure. But I will see all the check boxes. That's not easy to support all those check boxes. Okay. So we can very easily work with external components, no matter they are .NET controls, Windows Presentation Foundation controls, WPF, or HTML5.
Okay.
So if you have any external components creating any of those technologies, we can use all of them right away. We can also do any customization in any components. Or you can create components from scratch using any kind of crazy drawing or dynamic behavior. There is no boundaries on what you can create new or modify. That's very important, the existing component library. Next, our symbols and the data templates, they allow hierarchy. So if I have a solar turbine that has an internal component like motor, another component like temperature sensor, that those components by themselves, they are a data model, both on the data model and on the visualization of the symbols. We have that concept of parent-child. Okay. So I can create a symbol that's the full solar wind farm. Yeah. And we have many child symbols that you map to the child data of my solar wind farm. So it's not only one-to-one, one data model, one symbol. We can grow that hierarchy very easily. So we do have some customers that they work, for instance, the power industry, that they drop a substation, they drop big elements. Sure. Either use the automated tool or even manually. They create in 1-2 minutes what was supposed to be a very complex application, because the data model, the bytes, the symbols, the alarms is all together thanks to our object model. Okay. Yeah. And of course, quite unique, the easy way to share the same symbol across different projects and even different technologies like .NET and HTML5. I think those are the key points.
Yeah, I mean, it's very powerful. So I appreciate you taking the time. And I think, between just seeing the time savings, the ease of use, the logic that's built in, I think the flow connectors are exciting. And for those of you, again, that missed the webcast last week, we do delve into them just a little bit. You can check it out on our website. Mark, I think... Go ahead.
We should point to the documentation because I did mention examples, things like that. So I'm going to share my screen just one more time, so I can go to our websites, okay? And just to point that in our websites, we have support 2 sessions that are important. Of course, all of them, they are best videos. The videos are quite interesting. The webinars, they are saved here. We have the training portal, but I'll talk about those 2. Okay. The documentation go to the websites. That's a formal product documentation, but that's good for the new users. But if you are already really using our software as an end user or as integrator, you should register yourself also to have access to the help desk. For this area, you need to log in, but there is no cost for that. You just need to request to have your credentials. And that gives you access to some additional examples, forums, and some other additional information for our users. So if you need to have access to those more advanced examples, you put yourself in the support portal as well. That's it. So I can stop sharing.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean, if you want kind of access initially, you can just visit docs.tatsoft.com. And to Mark's point, if you want to get in through kind of the portal that's got the deeper definitions, make sure that you register there and then get access. Again, if you want to subscribe, you can go check us out on YouTube as well as LinkedIn, where they should both be running in HD. And Mark, we'll announce next week's topic a little bit later, but I think one thing that we're also going to be implementing here is maybe a partner showcase, have a separate show that
that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be a great topic for next week.
We got some feedback. We asked, we also added a survey asking about, if we're giving value for everyone's time, and that was very positive. So thank you to everyone in the community. So with that said, I think we've wrapped up for today. Is there anything else you want to mention before we go?
No, just thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, again for tuning in for episode 7, and we will catch you next week. Have a great day.